Do you know how to protect yourself when an earthquake strikes? Hey, I'm Mario Lopez. Earthquakes can strike anytime. So, learning and practicing earthquake safety is a great idea for everyone. Join us, along with millions of people worldwide, to learn how to drop, cover, and hold on during the Great Shakeout. We're all in this together, so make sure your home, workplace, school, and community are planning to shake out.
Join us and learn more at shakeout.org. Shakeout Day is October 21st.
When the earth shakes, the ground moves, and things start to fall, you'll ask yourself, how prepared or unprepared are you? Have you removed objects from over the bed and over your head? Anchored your possessions securely to the wall. It won't be a pain, and you're not doing it in vain. Are your emergency kits packed? What about your family, your friends? Did they know what to do, how to get in touch, and where to meet? Do you know how to drop, cover, and hold on, covering your head and neck? What if you're outside? Or in a car? After the shaking stops, look around. Figure out what to do. Stay away from damaged areas. Turn on a radio. Reach out for help. And if you're trapped, do not move about. Stay calm. Only shout as a last resort. Once everything and everyone is safe, get prepared. An aftershock could be on its way. So before the earth shakes, the ground moves, and things start to fall, get prepared. Make a plan. Practice what you know, because an earthquake can happen anytime, anywhere. You never know. When the earth shakes.
All right, welcome everyone to the 2021 Great Central U.S. Shakeout online earthquake drill. My name is Brian Blake. I'm with the Central United States Earthquake Consortium. We're based in Memphis, Tennessee, and we're pleased to have you here for our online shakeout drill today. So thanks for joining us. Real quick, we are going to have on our live stream, we're on multiple platforms. So feel free to comment on those in the chat functions or the comment sections of the platforms. We may not be able to see or hear everything in real time, so we'll just kind of play it by ear. If you've got questions, pop them in there, or comments about earthquake safety, earthquake preparedness, etc., or any of our presentations today. Pop those in there, and then we'll respond as we're able. Real quick, today this morning, we just had our East Coast Shakeout earthquake drill, which started at about 9:21 Central Time, but we're moving towards the Central U.S. Shakeout earthquake drill, and that's going to be at 10:21 Central Time. And then as the day goes on, the earthquake drill is going to move westward, and then at 10:21 Pacific time, they'll have an earthquake drill out there on the West Coast. So for our shakeout today, for our presentation this morning, we've got myself. I'll be our host. Again, Brian Blake with QSEC. We've got several guest speakers: Jeff Briggs from Missouri, Glenn Granholm from Safety Proof, based out of California, and Jasmine Johnson from Mississippi. And our guests will talk to us about different things and ways that we can be better prepared for earthquakes. So our schedule for the morning, we've already kicked off, but we'll have our guest speakers begin in in a few moments. We'll talk about earthquake safety, ways to be prepared, how to do the shakeout drill, and then we'll have the shakeout drill at 10:21. And then we'll wrap it up by about 10:25 or 10:26 this morning. If we've got any questions, we'll take them at that time. So Great Shakeout earthquake drills are an annual event when schools, organizations, individuals, and communities practice earthquake safety and other aspects of their preparedness plans. So annually, millions of people across the country and worldwide participate in Shakeout earthquake drills. They began in California, I think back around 2008 or so. We've been having them here in the central US since 2011. So this is our 10th year to do this. This year, more than 15 million people nationwide will participate. And lots of people begin doing that by going to shakeout.org and registering, where they get information about earthquake safety, preparedness, things that they can do before, during, and after an earthquake to stay safe. We also have a website that is in Spanish, and that's shakeout.org/Espanol. So in 2021, earthquake drills this year, just, earthquakes can happen at any time. It's not likely going to happen on the third Thursday in October at 10:21 a.m. at a specific time. So, but this shakeout gives us an opportunity, gives us a time where many people at one time can practice how to be safe during an earthquake. And earthquakes may not happen while you're at work or at school or even at home. So it's important during the shakeout earthquake drill, no matter where you are, that's where you should shake out. So shake out in place if you're at work, home, school, traveling, whatever. We've also got considerations for the pandemic. So whether or not your drill's in person, remote, etc., there are things that you can do to have a shakeout drill, but also stay safe from the pandemic standpoint. And you could even do your shakeout remotely through video conferencing during the pandemic. So make sure that you take recordings or screenshots. You can talk about what might be done during an earthquake, what might you do differently after you've had your earthquake drill, and those sorts of things. If you do a drill in person this year in pandemic times, make sure that you're providing ample space between people at all stages during the drill, using the appropriate personal protective equipment, masks, etc. And then do things like hand washing afterwards, because you've been holding on to pieces of furniture that are near the ground. And we've also got instructions like this that are on the shakeout.org/Espanol website. We encourage everyone today, if you're doing an earthquake drill, or no matter when you're doing an earthquake drill, to take photos and videos of the drill. So show people doing drop, cover, hold on. You can upload those to social media, any pictures or videos, using the hashtag #shakeout. And then we'll also share some of those photos on the shakeout.org website. So today we've got a few presentations. I'll give a quick overview of the Virginia earthquake that occurred 10 years ago this year. Jasmine Johnson from Mississippi Emergency Management Agency is going to talk about earthquake preparedness and all hazard preparedness. Glenn Granholm from Safety Proof will give us an overview of how to secure your space and secure contents in your home or office against earthquakes, and things you can look for to do that. Jeff Briggs from the Missouri Emergency Management Agency will give us a brief on financial preparedness, specifically earthquake insurance, and what that might look like for you. So as we get going, just to note, many states have earthquake hazards. It's no secret that here in the central US, there are a number of active seismic zones. A lot of people, though, think of earthquakes as only being a West Coast or a California problem, but it's just not the case. More than half of the states in the country, including territories, as well as states outside of the continental U.S., Hawaii and Alaska have active seismic zones and have earthquakes happening all the time. You just may not feel them. The map here in the central U.S., we can see that we've got several active seismic zones. In the 2018 to present, these are earthquakes that have been happening in the central U.S., in the New Madrid seismic zone, kind of in the Boot Heel area of Missouri, and then the East Tennessee seismic zone over there in the eastern part of Tennessee and the northern part of Alabama and Georgia. And so these seismic zones are capable of producing a damaging earthquake at any time. Upwards of a 25 to 40% probability of a damaging earthquake could occur within the next 50 years. 10 years ago, there was a damaging earthquake in, excuse me, in Mineral, Virginia. And that earthquake was felt by an estimated 1/3 of the US population. And the earthquake occurred in Mineral, Virginia, which was in Louisa County, which sustained an estimated $80 million in damages. 3 schools there had to be torn down and rebuilt because they were unsafe. It took that school district nearly 5 years to recover from this earthquake. And so while this wasn't a very large earthquake in the grand scheme of things, it was very impactful to that local community and to all the individuals in the communities while they were transitioning and rebuilding their schools and repairing homes and getting kind of back to normal. So it took them about 5 years. Nearly 90 miles away in Washington, D.C., there was more than $300 million in damages, mostly to the National Cathedral, places like the Washington Monument, which was closed for a number of years while they were doing repairs, Central Station, and places like that. And this earthquake happened in an area that was not necessarily known for its large damaging earthquakes. So just because an earthquake happens or could happen in the New Madrid seismic zone doesn't necessarily mean that it couldn't happen to you or it couldn't happen somewhere where it's not as expected on a normal day-to-day basis. Last year in Sparta, North Carolina, there was a magnitude 5.1 earthquake. This earthquake affected more than 500 homes in a community that's relatively small, about 2,000 people. So there was damages to streets, brick chimneys, brickwork in houses, non-structural contents were damaged, and non-structural things like you see there in the photo, dishes and televisions and bookcases and things like that toppled over. And so earthquakes like this, we could see one of these at any time in the central US. And again, that was more than a year ago, and there's still homes that are being repaired, businesses that are being repaired, and the impacts of that earthquake a year ago are ongoing to this day. So next we've got, I should point out, these earthquakes that you see here on this map, all the little dots on the screen, we've had 5 earthquakes in the central and eastern US this year that are over magnitude 4.0. And all told, we've had about 1,600 earthquakes in this region. And that's year to date. So earthquakes, they can and do happen here on a daily basis in the central and eastern US. So this is an important thing that we need to be prepared for. So to help us with that, we've got Jasmine Johnson from the Mississippi Emergency Management Agency to talk with us a little bit about earthquake preparedness and how that also can tie in with all hazards preparedness. Jasmine, thanks for joining us today.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Johnson, and I am with Mississippi Emergency Management Agency, as Brian said. And I will be talking to you guys about how to be prepared during an earthquake and all hazards. That's anything such as hurricanes, flooding, tornadoes, any other disaster or natural causes that may come through your area. First, with earthquakes, like Brian said, earthquakes are not predictable. We cannot determine when an earthquake is going to happen. So that's why it's very important. You want to stay prepared at all times. We all know the techniques, which we repeated and said it over and over again, and we're having a great shakeout today. But you want to drop, cover, and hold on exactly where you are. You don't want to run or leave the area that you are in. If you are driving, you want to be sure to stop exactly where you are, to pull to the side of the road and stop where you are. Try to avoid going under overpasses such as bridges or power lines. Be sure to stay away from that. And if you're just so happen to be outside, be sure to step away from the building. Try your best to get in like an open space during that time, but do not just take off running or trying to find a safe place to hide. It's the safest place to stay where you are. If you are disabled or are incapable of moving or moving freely, you probably want to follow the website, go to shakeout.org and find out more tips on how you can stay safe. There are ways that's accessible for everyone. It's not for just others. Also, you want to be sure, for example, if you're in an office space, you can definitely drop under your desk exactly where you are, cover your head and be sure to hold on. Now, a few other things that you guys can do to be prepared ahead of time is build you a 72-hour kit. Build a 72-hour kit. It's also known that if you have more than one person in the household, that you would definitely need to purchase one case of water per person. That should last you for about 72 hours. Be sure to keep canned foods, can opener, flashlights, batteries, extra batteries for your flashlights, blankets, pillows, duct tape. First aid kit is very important to have handy, and other personal hygiene items that can be very, very helpful during that time as well. One thing that we kind of not keep in the forefront is important documents. In the time of disaster, we kind of lose sight of making sure that you have like your social security card, your birth certificates, those important insurance information on hand. That information is kind of like thrown to the back of our minds and we just forget about that. But if you can make copies of those, keep them in a safe place, put them in your 72-hour kit just to make sure that it's ready to go versus you having to go and look for it, or a tree fell through your house and you cannot get to that end of the house. You can have extra copies of it in your car or in the kitchen somewhere, wherever you hide your 72-hour kit. Be sure to have extra copies made of your important documents. Another thing that we do not think about is businesses being closed, such as your banks not able to have access to cash on hand. Be sure to have a cash on hand stashed away with your 72-hour kit, because you may not be able to get to the ATM. The bank may be closed. Communication towers and power lines may be down. And where I'm from, Mississippi, we deal with a lot of liquefaction. And liquefaction is not safe to drive on the roads. It's not safe to be out. So if we already have cash stored away and our important documents handy and made copies of those already, that'll save a lot of time. Also, how it relates to other disasters such as hurricanes, thunderstorms, flooding, ice storms, all of it, you're going to need a 72-hour kit. But the only thing is we can see, or we have meteorologists that can tell us, okay, hey, we have a storm coming, possible tornado, possible wind damage, possible heavy rain. Hurricane is about 3 or 4 days out. We can see that, we can predict those things. It's more in the forefront. However, during an earthquake, we cannot see, it's no notice. It just happens at a blink of an eye. And also aftershocks can come back as long as a year out. So we never know exactly when an earthquake is going to take place. So that's why it's very, very, very important that we practice the drill. We participate in the Great Shakeout Drill every year, and also have your 72-hour kit handy and available and accessible to you. And so that's all I have for you guys. If you have any questions, you can comment, and I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. But I'm going to hand it back over to Brian, and he's going to get you to Glenn. Thank you.
Thanks,
Safe.
Jasmine. And I think that's great points you made, especially about the 72-hour kit and like the personal financial information. It's a thing that a lot of people don't think about, whether their bank account information or their insurance policies and Social Security, all that stuff you might need quickly, and you might need to put your hands on it. So thanks for those tips. And we appreciate you being here. So next we've got Glenn Granholm with Safety Proof. And Glenn is going to talk to us about secure your space and the basics of non-structural earthquake mitigation, earthquake damage mitigation, and hopefully some tips that we can use to be safe around our house and our place of work. Thanks for joining us, Glenn.
Thank you, Brian. And hello, everyone. Happy Shakeout Day. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about step 1 of the 7 steps to earthquake safety: secure your space. Why are we even talking about building contents? Well, recent studies have shown that the probability of an earthquake so big that it collapses a building is much lower than the probability of an earthquake that causes things inside that building to be tossed about. The 1994 Northridge earthquake showed that in dynamic fashion when almost 24 hospitals closed, primarily because of non-structural damage. So that's why we're talking about it. Any good writer knows to address who, what, where, when, why, and how when presenting an article to get information across. This presentation is like our own video article. We've already addressed why. Let's talk about what to do. We conduct a hazard hunt. This photograph shows a hazard carefully hidden in a bedroom. Do you know what it is? Locating hazards in your home is about as easy as identifying the fact that a bowling ball could fall on people's heads unless it's moved. So let's find out exactly what is involved in a hazard hunt. It goes like this. You're going to look around your environment and ask yourself yes or no questions. Can something injure someone if it fell on them in an earthquake? If so, secure it. Could an item block an exit or entrance if it tipped or fell in an earthquake? If so, secure it. What if an item is attached to a gas line where if it moved in an earthquake, a potential fire could start? You'll want to secure that item. What if something could cause significant financial hardship if it was damaged in an earthquake? Secure that. How about things that could cause a big mess that you just don't want to clean up after an earthquake? Secure that. What are some examples? Well, a large item that could hurt someone if it fell on them would be like an entertainment center or a china hutch. How about items on an exit? The picture here shows several potential doorway blockers, and some of them are wall mounted. Remember, size doesn't matter here. Doorway blocking does. Dryers are often attached to gas lines. Be sure to secure those so we don't have a fire. At one point, I was asked to secure a Joe Montana autographed football helmet. It's a football helmet, for crying out loud, but it was valuable and it got secured. The last picture on the bottom right is from my home, where about 500 little tiny items are in a house that's hanging on a wall. Those items can be secured. In fact, you can make your home or work environment very safe ahead of an earthquake. How do we go about doing that? Not like this. This has been best practice for years. Angle clips, small pieces of steel put on top of items. In earthquakes, they tend to twist, bend, separate from the wall. Bad news in shake table tests. So we don't do it like this. In fact, experts recommend now that you use an engineered bracket or flexible fastening using very high bond adhesive. That allows the wall and the floor to to move in different directions, which is what happens in earthquakes. So, number one, we secure furniture and equipment with properly engineered and installed brackets or flexible adhesive-based fasteners. We secure collectibles or small items with earthquake putty or wax. We secure items that are hanging on the wall with closed loop connectors so they don't hop up the hook or the nail in an earthquake. And we ensure cabinet doors stay closed with proper connectors. They make them, In fact, all the items you need to make your space earthquake safe are available at most home stores or online simply by searching earthquake fasteners. We're almost done here. We've talked about why the probability of an earthquake creating non-structural damage is much higher than one causing structural damage. What? Conduct a hazard hut. Identify risk in your own environment. How? Properly secure non-structural building components. Step 1 of the 7 steps to earthquake safety. Who's going to do this? You are. If you need help, ask for it. When is this going to happen? Today. It's ShakeOut Day. Where is this going to happen? Look around. Your entire environment is ready to be fastened. Go out and secure your space and get ready for the next earthquake. Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn. Excellent points. Especially a lot of the things you mentioned are things that can be easily and quickly done. Moving heavy objects, for instance, is not something that takes a lot of time or money to do. Next up, we've got, thanks again, Glenn. Next up, we've got Jeff Briggs. Jeff, are you here? There you are.
I sure am. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for joining us. Jeff is with the state of Missouri and is going to talk with us this morning about the importance of financial preparedness and things like earthquake insurance. Thanks, Jeff.
You bet, Brian. Thank you. And thank you to Jasmine and to Glenn. A lot of good information there. I want to touch on one other important aspect to preparedness that perhaps people don't think about so much, and that is earthquake insurance. Most homeowners in the New Madrid seismic zone do not have earthquake insurance on their homes. And some, in fact, don't even know that they don't have it. I think a lot of people assume that I have homeowners insurance on my house, therefore I'm covered against all hazards. Now, that may be true for many hazards, but earthquake insurance is different. It is not come with a standard homeowners insurance policy. It has to be purchased separately. It's called an endorsement, and it costs extra. So people may not realize that they don't have earthquake insurance, or if they do realize that they don't have it, they may not have it because it's so expensive. And we're going to talk about that a little more here in a minute. But why is this important? Having earthquake insurance on your home is a critical component to earthquake recovery. Not only, obviously, it's important to the people who may get their homes damaged or even lost in a big earthquake, and then they're simply not able to afford to rebuild the way they'd like to. But it's also important to the community as a whole. I mean, a key component to community resilience is to be able to rebuild after an earthquake, to get back to some semblance of normal as soon as possible. And if you don't have the financial means to build back and get back to a normal life, then that's going to be very, very difficult for families and for the community. People may have to end up leaving the area if they simply cannot afford to rebuild. And with all the aftershocks coming, that's going to be especially challenging. So here in the emergency management community, we really look at earthquake insurance and making sure people have it and know about it as a key component to recovery. So next slide, please, Brian. Thank you. So one of the reasons people don't have earthquake insurance in the Madrid seismic zone is that the earthquake insurance premiums have gone through the roof in the last 20 years. As insurance companies have further examined and become better aware of the risk in the New Madrid seismic zone, their reaction has been to dramatically increase the premiums. As you can see on this stat, in the highest risk New Madrid area, these are Missouri statistics. This is the 6 counties in the boot heel of Missouri, far southeast Missouri, that are most prone to earthquake damage. The premiums have risen 760%. since 2000. So of course, it's no wonder that a lot of people have decided they cannot afford this add-on earthquake insurance. Next slide, please. So with premiums that are jumping like that, you would expect to see less coverage, and that's exactly what we're seeing in the New Madrid area. 20 years ago, 60% of people in this Boot Heel area of Missouri had insurance. But due to the sharply increasing premiums, we've seen that number dwindle to only 12.7% of people in the highest risk zone have earthquake insurance this past year. And of course, that's a big, big problem, not only for the folks who are not going to be able to financially recover after disaster, but in terms of those who are wanting us to help rebuild that community. Next slide, please. This slide gives a little more detail put together by our State Department of Insurance. As you can see, and the data up front shows that the premiums have increased from what in the New Madrid counties, $57 20 years ago to now almost $500 a year, an enormous premium increase. And the chart shows that in those highest risk New Madrid counties, the numbers are climbing dramatically, which has simply priced a lot of people out of the earthquake insurance market in Southeast Missouri. Next slide, thank you. So what do we see? When we look at the premiums increase and we look at the resulting drop in insurance, this map shows it best, I think. These are the percent of residences with earthquake coverage this past year. You would expect the colors to go from light to darker as we move south and east across the state. And to an extent, you see that as the numbers get darker, the yellows and the reds, meaning more people have insurance. As you get closer in the St. Louis area and down south, that's good. We want to see those red colors to show a lot of people have insurance. But note, as you get down into far Southeast Missouri, down into that Boot Heel where the risk is greatest, all of a sudden those numbers get lighter again. And that directly reflects the fact that the premiums have dramatically increased and the coverages as a result of that have dramatically decreased. So this is the challenge we're faced with, and it's why a lot of people do not have coverage in the area we really need them to have coverage. So what can be done about this? First, I should point out, although the stats we have are for the state of Missouri and everything we're talking about, this is an issue throughout the New Madrid seismic zone. We have the same risk, we have a lot of the same insurance companies, and certainly the insurance premiums are increasing and the coverage decreasing throughout the New Madrid seismic zone. Missouri is just the example of that I'm talking about this morning. And here in Missouri, we do not have state authority to mandate change. We have no regulatory ability to tell insurance companies that you have to cover people or that you have to charge people a certain rate for a certain insurance. Really, it's the private sector, and it's up to them to determine what they want to cover and how much they want to charge for it. So what can we do? Well, we want to make people aware that their homes don't necessarily have earthquake insurance, and we're doing what we can to work with the industry, and we've got a partnership with our friends at the Federal Emergency Management Agency as well. So right now we're discussing with them innovative solutions. How can we cover the risk better? How can we look at this region and target earthquake insurance and see what we can do to make earthquake insurance more accessible for more people and more affordable as well? And that's something we're working on right now. Next slide, final slide. What can you do about it? Understanding the issue is one, and we hope this discussion has helped. Understand, are you in a high risk area? Are you in that part of the map where you're at high risk from the New Madrid seismic zone? If you are, do you have earthquake insurance? Do you know whether your homeowner's coverage includes earthquake insurance? If you do, great. But if not, this would be a great time to check with your insurance agent to find out what's available and how expensive it is. If you live down in extreme Southeast Missouri, then the insurance may very well be expensive. But if you live in risk areas like the St. Louis area, for example, that is still at risk from earthquake shaking, but the premiums are much, much more affordable in the St. Louis area, this would be a great time to learn about that and perhaps consider getting earthquake insurance coverage. Because the bottom line is, and we've talked about this, our other presenters talked about it very well, we need to prepare now because earthquakes occur with no warning. Now would be a great time to get ready before the shaking starts. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Jeff. Great points as always. And it also should be noted that earthquake insurance doesn't cover, not only does it, normal homeowners policy not cover earthquake damage, but it doesn't cover things like sinkholes or landslides, or settlement, or any kind of earth moving, whether or not it was created by an earthquake or not. And those earthquake insurance policies can help with that. So thanks for that valuable information. So now it's almost time for our great shakeout earthquake drill. And thanks again to all of our presenters this morning, Jasmine, Glenn, and Jeff. And we'll move into the to the shakeout drill portion of our presentation today. So again, earthquakes, they can happen anywhere, and almost they can happen almost anywhere and at any time. They don't happen necessarily on a schedule. So an earthquake's not going to happen on the third Thursday of October each year. There are earthquakes ongoing every day throughout the central and eastern US, and also in other parts of the country. And even if you're watching today and you don't live in a particularly active seismic zone or area where earthquakes happen all the time, you could travel somewhere, you could visit, you could be working somewhere in America or overseas or anywhere where an earthquake could occur, where they're more prone to happen. So it's important to know how to be safe during an earthquake, and that's what we'll review right now. So most injuries caused by earthquakes are not from buildings collapsing on people, but they're from things, items, debris, contents falling on people and causing injuries. So it's very important to practice how to be safe. And today, during our shakeout drill, we're joining millions of people who are practicing earthquake safety actually right now. And this is part of the 7 steps to earthquake safety. And step 5 is stay safe during an earthquake. So if there's an earthquake happening and there's a table or a desk nearby, what you should do is drop where you are onto your hands and knees, cover your head and your neck with one arm and a hand, and crawl underneath the table or a desk for additional shelter. You should stay on your knees, bending forward to protect your vital organs, and then you should hold on to the shelter and hold on to your position until the earthquake shaking stops and things have stopped falling around you. And you want to do this as soon as possible after you feel an earthquake begin, because you don't know when the next earthquake could be a damaging earthquake, or if it's going to be a small one. So it's important to just do drop, cover, and hold on and protect yourself just in case it is a damaging earthquake. If there's nothing to get under, you still want to drop, cover, and hold on. So that's drop where you are onto your hands and knees. Cover your head and your neck with one arm in your hand, and then crawl next to a wall, away from any windows or things that might fall on you. And again, staying on your knees, bending over, and holding your position. And this protects your vital organs. And in this case, you could hold onto your head and neck with both arms and hands. Also, you want to adapt for your situation. So if you can't drop, cover, and hold on, don't. If you can't get back up off the ground after getting down, stay up. If you're in a wheelchair or a walker, you can lock the wheels and then cover your head and your neck with your arms, or you could hold a book over your head or something like that. And you could ask others to assist you during the earthquake. We have a whole host of tips on earthquakecountry.org/accessibility for people with disabilities and access and functional needs on how they can be safe during an earthquake, including a series of videos that talk about different situations for individuals that might be in a wheelchair, walkers, using crutches, or they have limited upper body movement abilities. And so there's a video on earthquakecountry.org/accessibility where you could view these different situations. We'll go over a couple of those right now. So if an individual, if you are using a power wheelchair, you would want to lock, cover, and hold on. If possible, on your inside, getting near a corner safely. So it's similar idea to kind of crawling next to a shelter. or neck under a shelter if you were able to drop, cover, and hold on. Do you want to lock the power wheelchair? So lock the wheels, and then you want to hold, cover your head and your neck with your arms. And if you've got something like a book or something like that, you could cover your head with that. And so it's important, just stay where you are, lock, cover, and hold on. And it's kind of the same for folks using a rollator, a manual wheelchair or a rollator. You want to lock the wheels, cover your head and your neck, and then hold on to your position. Crouch down as low as possible as you can in the wheelchair. And this could be the same for a person that's using a walker, and there's a nearby chair, for instance. In other settings, what would you do if you're in a high rise? Well, you would want to drop, cover, and hold on where you are, avoiding windows and other falling hazards. If you're in bed, you can lay down, face down with a pillow over your head. You don't want to jump out of bed to drop, cover, and hold on. You just stay where you are and put the pillow over your head. If you're in a stadium or a theater, you drop, cover, and hold on, getting as low as possible, or bending over as low as possible in the chair if you can't get down onto the ground. If you're in a store, you want to drop, cover, hold on. If you're outside, you want to try and slowly move away. You want to get low, crawl to a place that's away from things like a power line or tall buildings, things of those nature. That way, you're protecting yourself from things falling around you. You don't want to run during an earthquake because you could be thrown to the ground and injured. So let's see, we're going to skip over this video. So right now, we're going to do our earthquake drill. We're a couple of minutes behind, but again, earthquakes don't necessarily happen on a schedule. So we're going to hold our ShakeOut earthquake drill right now. And just a reminder, so we're going to ask everybody that's watching now to drop, cover, hold on if you're able to. If you're not able to, then take one of the other safety measures we just reviewed. But be careful. This is about doing it safely, not about being fast. So you don't have to jump under the table. If you're using wired headphones right now, you could unplug those and make sure you can hear the drill instructions that we'll provide in just a moment, so that you can hear those instructions over the computer or phone or tablet that you're using. So we will go ahead and start.
This is the Great Shakeout, one of the largest earthquake drills ever. Practice now so you can protect yourself during a real earthquake. This is an earthquake drill. Right now, drop, cover, and hold on. Drop to the floor now. During a large earthquake, the ground might jerk strongly and knock you down. Take cover under something sturdy to protect yourself from objects that can be thrown across a room. Hold on to your shelter until the shaking stops. If you can't get under something, stay low and protect your head and neck with your arms. Now look around. What objects might fall or be thrown at you that you should secure in place before a real earthquake? Finally, a strong earthquake may cause a tsunami. If you're near the ocean during an earthquake, drop, cover, and hold on. Then quickly walk to high ground after the shaking stops. This drill is over. Visit ShakeOut.org for simple steps to help you survive and recover from a major earthquake. Thank you for taking part in the Great Shakeout.
All right. So that's the ShakeOut earthquake drill. It doesn't take long to do. So some things to ask yourself after you do an earthquake drill like this. What did you learn by practicing how to protect yourself? Was it easy to get down in that position? If you're unable to, look around and see what other safe spots you might be able to crawl to if there's not a desk or a table nearby. What might fall on you or others if an earthquake happened right now? How could you secure items or move items like Glenn talked about in his Secure Your Space presentation so they won't cause injury to others? If power goes out, how could you charge your phones? Do you have a generator or a power bank or some sort of way to charge your phone so you could communicate? And then how could you communicate with family members that might be away from home or that live in other parts of the city or in another state or something like that. And so think about that aspect of post-earthquake. You need to contact others to let them know you're safe. You would want to do that by a text or maybe an app. Perhaps when calling is not available because cell networks could be down. Then like Jasmine talked about, do you have a disaster supply kit or at least 72 hours worth of food and water? You know, we also recommend 72 hours is a good starting point, but you could, in some cases, be on your own as many as 2 weeks. So it's important to be 2 weeks ready for things like an earthquake or an ice storm, or on the coast, there are oftentimes hurricanes every year. So one of these disaster supply kits could help not only for an earthquake, but for a multitude of hazards. So these are some important things to ask yourself after doing an exercise like the ShakeOut. All right, with that, I think we are about done. Thank everyone for participating today as well. Thanks to our guests for joining us. Natasha, I know you're back there. I'm not sure if there are any other questions from the participants out there. I did see someone asked if the ShakeOut's an annual thing. Yes, we do this every year. Generally in October, we encourage people to go to shakeout.org and register there to participate. But if you can't do the earthquake drill in October, you could actually do it any day of the year. So let's see. And it looks like there are no other questions right now, so we're good. All right, thank everyone for participating, and also to our guest speakers. And we will let everyone go. Thank you.
Thank you.